We're on our way to the High Court in London for the first day of the hearing into a case brought by Al-Haq, a Palestinian human rights organisation, and a global legal action network against the British government, which is saying that the fact that they didn't include components for the F-35 in the suspensions that they announced in September 2024 is unlawful. We're going to talk to the lawyers that are bringing the case, and we're going to talk to some politicians who I think are going to be down there. So here we go.
The case today is about whether it's lawful for the UK government to continue transferring weapons components into the global spare parts pool, which serves Israel along with a lot of other Western states. The UK's national rules say that it's unlawful to transfer weapons if there's a clear risk that those weapons might be used in a serious violation of international humanitarian law. The government has, as of September, actually assessed that there is such a clear risk, but they've said even so, international peace and security justifies us departing from those rules to continue supplying the parts.
But suspension in 2024 in September, but they said that they were still going to continue exporting F-35 parts, but not directly to Israel. Is that correct?
That's right.
But it seems like there was a loophole that they could do it if it was re-exported. Is that right?
Well, what they've said is when they can identify an export as being bound for Israel, they'll block it. But because the spare parts pool isn't tracked by the US government, which actually owns all of those parts, they can't tell which parts are going to go to Israel, which parts are going to go to other states. And they've decided that on balance, they're going to keep supplying the spare parts pool.
Can you just talk a bit about the nature of the fact that they've said that they're going to stop exporting, or they're going to stop any licenses that can be used in Gaza, yet the F-35 obviously is one of the main bits of technology which is being used in a genocide.
The F-35s are a central component of the genocide because not only do they carry out airstrikes which kill children in their tents and families in their homes, they also explicitly clear the way for the ground troops. So every time we see ground troops abusing Palestinians, destroying homes, capturing them, taking them for torture, all of those acts have been facilitated by the F-35s. So to say that this is in any way lawful, we say is absolutely absurd.
Here with Zara Sultana, Labour MP for Coventry South. The arms side has been quite publicised and is in the media. We've got legal cases, but there's obviously a whole other element, which is the intelligence side, which is, in my opinion, even more extreme in terms of the British involvement, because you know that there's daily spy flights going over Gaza for 5 hours. We don't know where that intelligence is going. The use of RAF artillery on Cyprus to supply and support the genocide. Is there any moves in Parliament to try and get some accountability? Because as a journalist, with the intelligence side, there's no mechanisms. They're completely secret agencies. So is that something that's on your radar?
I think it's just as important as the arms exports that we are sending to Israel, we are selling to Israel. There is often the excuse of national security that's used when we talk about surveillance and the role that RAF artillery is having in this genocide. But it's important that we are constantly asking questions. We are, constantly putting the government under a microscope about this, because you can't go to RAF artillery, thank people for the work that they're doing without saying what it was, which is what Keir Starmer did.
Although we're really proud of what you're doing, we can't necessarily tell the world what you're doing here.
And highlight that there is something complicit going on, and therefore there have to be answers to those questions, because the sheer scale of British involvement, I don't think we truly can grasp. There are aspects that we can identify, like our arms sales, like the diplomatic cover, like the statements made in Parliament, but the secret nature around some of it, especially around surveillance, is highly concerning and has to be also uncovered.
And just on suspension in September 2024, which was a couple of months after Labour won the election, do you think there was just window dressing? Because it's, as you mentioned, a PYM report that showed that over 8,000 munitions had been sent subsequent to that suspension, plus they carved out the F-35 parts. doesn't seem to me like it had any teeth and was intended to have any teeth. What's your take on that?
The government announced that suspension in response to the legal case and also the mobilisation that we see in our streets. So I understand when people call it a PR stunt and window dressing, because substantially nothing changed, and that's why we have to keep going. We need to make sure all arms sales stop, none of this directly, indirectly crap. Essentially, anything that can be used in Israel by its military to kill people cannot be leaving any RAF bases, any airports like Heathrow. The supply chain here has to stop. That is feeding into this genocidal machine that is killing people. And whether that's, posed as helmets and goggles, which is not true. David Lammy said what we're sending is defensive, and it's basically just helmets and goggles. We know from that report that is categorically untrue. Therefore, we have been lied to, and David Lammy, Keir Starmer and the Labour government, if they have misled Parliament, need to come and tell us the truth about the sheer scale of arms exports that are going to Israel.
So can you just explain why you're here today and what the case is about?
When the doors close before you and no one listens to you and hear you, you use the peaceful legal means to come to knock the door of the officials. And today we are knocking the doors of Britain because they ignored everything, calls, and they complicit what's going on in Gaza, the genocide. They are arming Israel, they're protecting Israel. They said that they stopped armed Israel, but in reality they continue doing this. And now we are in the highest level of the judiciary system to say, what we have to say. To say, you have to act according to international law. You have to respect your obligation under the international law. And you have to give a meaning to your obligations and to your responsibility. That's what we would like to say. I'm sure that they dislike this way, but we will do.
In terms of the case itself, are you hopeful that you can win this? Are the grounds strong for you to win against the government?
I think we have a very strong case. We've got 5 separate grounds. Some of them concern the direct breach of international law. Some of them concern whether the government followed the right process for deciding whether there was a good reason to depart from the policy. One of them concerns the interaction between public law and criminal law, because we say that the government actually doesn't have the power to transfer these parts, because to do so encourages crime in the UK. We think that we've got a very good chance of winning. This is a case like no other. There's never been a situation in which the government has assessed a clear risk of serious violations of IHL, which are war crimes, and then continued to transfer nevertheless. It hasn't been tested. They're going to have to answer to that and say, actually, have there been direct transfers in violation of the suspension? If there have, then this is a very significant problem for them. We have to proceed on the basis that they have suspended the parts they say they've suspended. But I guess we'll have to just react if we find out that it's different.
Lawyers say that a decision will be reached in this case within 6 weeks. And whatever way it goes, it's an extremely important progression in the fight to get transparency around Britain's role in Gaza and to get accountability. It also doesn't include the much bigger element of Britain's role in Gaza, in my opinion, which is the intelligence gathering role. There's daily spy flights, there's a spy team which was sent to Israel early in the genocide, and we know pretty much nothing about that, and the government need to be challenged and ministers need to be held account for this as well.